Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark. Today's guest is going to talk about media and tours. And I'm pretty excited about this because I know most of you out there, you're aiming for these big network productions, trying to get onto ABC, NBC, places like that. And quite frankly, we don't even book those anymore. They have turned out to be such propaganda outlets that we will not allow our authors on them. So I'm really excited to have a guest today that's going to talk about the value of long form media and how it is the wave of the future compared to these short form interviews that are done on the mainstream media. So I'm really excited. She has a whole package that she's out there booking right now, and I think you'll really enjoy her as well. Before we get started, next week is Thanksgiving, and the day after Thanksgiving, we have our author bundle. If you go over to authorbuzzbuilders.com, we have all of our courses for $9.97. Most of the time, if you take these courses individually, it's about $5,000. Comes in a little under $5,000, but we are doing them for $9.97 if you buy the bundle between Thanksgiving and New Year's. So get your credit card out. Let's go. Let's build that author platform for next year. Today's guest is Jackie Lapin. And for the past 15 years, Jackie Lapin's Conscious Media Relations podcast and radio tours have helped nearly 400 luminaries, leaders, filmmakers, and authors grow their businesses, sell more books, create viewership, and change more lives by introducing them up to 9,000 radio shows and podcasts, including such clients as Don Miguel Ruiz, who, gosh, if you haven't read his book, it's amazing. Dr. Joe Vitale, Marie Diamond, James Twyman, Ariel Ford, Hay House, and more. She's booked for more than 10,000 interviews for her clients. So stay tuned while Jackie and I talk about the state of the industry. Jackie, welcome to the show.
I'm delighted to be here, Juliet. I so appreciate you and the work that you do in the world and love to help people understand what the opportunities are.
Oh, thank you. I love that. So we're really going to dive into some things today that I don't think that my authors understand, that there is a big media shift going on and why they should let go of that old and really embrace this new. So can you talk a little bit about, I know you book a lot, why you chose podcast and radio?
Well, for a long time, I did the full gamut of media. But since we really specialize in self-help, personal growth, spirituality, memoirs with a message, etc., one of the things we discovered is that broadcast television, magazines, newspapers don't really care about this anymore. What they're really interested in is, the hard news. They have very limited staffs. They don't have columnists anymore. But podcasts, internet radio, and still broadcast radio welcome authors and leaders, anything in that space. And there are more than 4 million podcasts today. So if any author says to me, well, I can't find a way to get onto podcasts, or I don't know where to find my podcast, I'm telling you, they're not trying hard enough. And so the landscape is so wide, we just decided to focus in on those kinds of media because we know they welcome people. They know that they have space that they've got to fill, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly. And so that the opportunities are fairly unlimited. And that's why we focused on doing our podcast radio tours in that niche.
I love that too, because it's so much harder with the mainstream media when you're on those big shows because you're focusing on sound bites. You have 2 minutes. And you can't just get on and say, my book is about, they're going to be shooting questions at you, and you have to be able to do this succinctly. What I love about the shift that's happening is that long form is a really get to know you type of thing. And you're going to laugh at this. I heard this interview, I think it was one of the former presidential candidates on Vivek Ramaswamy. Was on with Bill O'Reilly the other day, and Bill O'Reilly was actually teaching him that before you start the sentence, you say the name of your book. And it was kind of hilarious to watch. Like, this isn't the short form. This is how we do it in long form, the teaching that went on.
So there's a lot of factors that benefit you, in the fact that you now have anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour in most interviews. The facts are that you have more time to seed your message. You don't have to spit it out in that first second, and that you are building your relationship with both the audience and the host.
Yes.
Because with the audience, they need to get to know, like, and trust you. And over the course of the interview, you're going to do that. And we're going to talk about 20 questions in a minute and why
Okay.
that's important. But for the first part of it, you are seducing, if you could say, the audience and making them feel like they really are, engaged with you, and and you want to get them to the point where they want more from you. From the standpoint of the host, you know, the one of the nice things about it is that most of these podcast hosts have a business that's created for the purpose of the podcast. And that business, they'll often turn around and say, I'm doing a summit. Come be on my summit. Or let's do a joint venture where we exchange promotion to each other. Or, gee, I'd like you to be on this panel that I'm doing. Or I've got an event coming up. Or I want you to talk to my mastermind group. All of those are good reasons to build a relationship, and not to mention second and third interviews with the same host. There is real benefits to this.
There is. And I can't tell you how many books I've bought in the last year listening to podcasts. I listen to the podcast host and I feel like, oh, he's speaking to me or she's speaking to me. I've got to buy this book. And I buy it a lot of times in Audible. So yeah, there's that trust factor with the audience. But how many times do you, after that initial engagement with the host, they'll do a show on something that's related and they'll invite you back?
And the other thing about it, when a host brings you on their show, it is an implied endorsement.
Yes.
In other words, you're already getting the credibility boost of that host. And the audience thinks, oh, if the host trusts this person, then I should. If the host thinks this is a good book, then I should.
Exactly. And the host is looking for relevance. So you don't have to, it takes it right out of the picture. Is most of these hosts, it's relevant to what's going on in the world today. So, they're happy to bring you on to talk about that, which I think is the bigger barrier to get into mainstream audiences because they only focus in one direction. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that first, you really need to have a very clear idea on who your target audience is.
Yes.
And then you need to be going to those shows that really cater to that audience. But you need to have a great angle. And if you don't have something that distinguishes you from every other book out there, you're not going to get booked. You have to basically find a unique aspect, whether that's your hero's journey story, whether that's the subject matter itself, whether it's, a breakthrough that you created that nobody else has, or something that's going on in the zeitgeist that you have an answer to that it doesn't sound like everybody else's answer. You need to come up with a reason, as you said, to make yourself relevant to that host and that audience, and then be targeting the right ones. And, you can break through if you are going to the right place. Now, I'm also going to tell you, it's always easier to break through on the mid-level shows than it is on the top ones.
Yes.
So if you're starting out trying to hit the top shows and you don't have a lot of experience under your belt, you're one, not going to get booked. And two, if you do get booked and you stumble, you're in deep doo-doo. So you need to really step into the places that are more likely to bring you on board and that are more willing to take a shot on a first time or an author that doesn't have a ton of media experience.
Yes. So don't expect to get on Joe Rogan.
Exactly.
It's not happening. But when you get invited back, here's the other thing about it is when you're on a podcast, and I show this to my authors all the time. If you guys get a chance, you listeners, go over to Scott Carson's We Close Notes site. It's weclosenote.com. He actually has an entire web page where he has the images of the show, the show logos on there, and you can click and listen. So they're expecting you to promote as well. So find a way to do a really good job, because other hosts that are looking for someone might go over there and click and go, you know what, this guy's good. So, there's a lot there, and that takes some burden off you as the booker as well, doesn't it?
Yes. And we always tell people, that if a host asks you to do promotion, play along.
Yes.
Don't dismiss it, because it makes you a better partner, and they're more willing to play with people. And I'll tell you the truth, word gets around. This is a true virtual summits as well. If you commit yourself to a summit and you don't fulfill your promotional commitments, you're not only going to not get invited back, but hosts talk among themselves. They know who the deadbeats are.
Yes, we are a chatty group, aren't we? That actually is funny. I actually had to vet someone because I had such a poor interview. Someone recommended, this guy's like the best YouTube ever. And he was younger than my son. And for those of you who have sons, you know that you ask a boy how his day is, and he's like, great. That's all you're getting. You're not going to hear about it. And I got one of those. It was like, don't make me pull teeth during the interview.
So speaking of pulling teeth, the other thing I was alluding to is the 20 questions. Mm-hmm. So when we do a radio podcast tour, we do a full media kit. Now, here are the things that go into that media kit. A main release, which we'll repurpose the pitch letter as the main release. Then a full bio on you, because we want the host to really get to know you, get a feeling for you. Then an on-air introduction that they should read when you come on the air. Do not leave it for them, because they may get it wrong. And then 20 questions that you want to be asked. I'm going to come back to that. And then what we call the Learn More page in bullet point, how the public can engage with you. Now, it's where and how you can get your book, whether you have a free gift offer, what the your social media is, what your upsells are. And when I say upsells, your coaching programs, your e-courses, whatever it is that you're marketing, and then your website. Now, the 20 questions are a roadmap. Now, that roadmap accomplishes two things. It helps, first of all, let me just say, 80 to 90% of the hosts will use those questions. Hosts are lazy, and it's just easier for them. So by and large, they're going to follow your direction. Now, that list of questions is going to allow you to drop the golden nuggets in such a way that you're getting the audience to follow you, and you're putting in calls to actions, such as, well, in addition to my book on this topic, I have an ebook, and here's where you can get it. And then later I also do private coaching on this, or, I have a group of people that get together to discuss their memoirs, or whatever it is that you're going to be doing. That 20 questions will inform the audience. Don't make it all about promotion. It's not about promotion. It's all about value to the audience. It's all about what you're teaching them and learning and giving them in terms of learnings and value. But you use it as a springboard to present what it is you want them to do. So, and it takes the pressure off of you. You know exactly what's coming. And there's a benefit to this, because if you're a speaker just starting out, by the time you've done 20, 30, 40 interviews with the series of questions that you asked, and by then you've gotten a lot of it down into sound bites.
Yes.
When you go to get on a stage, it should make it so much easier for you, because you'll already know a lot of the content that you want to deliver. And you've done it so many times, you've committed it to your memory. Now, I'm not saying you should memorize it. I'm just saying it'll give you sort of the flow of what you're going to be doing on stage. And it's going to build your confidence so that when you get on stage, you're going to feel, I know this, I got this.
Yes. And what I love about the 20 questions too, is if you've ever seen, and I recall seeing someone last week listening, it gives you the opportunity to create succinct answers. I saw a couple, I think it was last week, where this woman just went on and on and on. And I was like, why isn't the host jumping in there? And I know the host was probably trying not to be rude, but it was too much. So it really helps you get those answers into succinct, organized thoughts as well, I feel like.
And, you can write out those answers first. Just don't give them to the host. And, but it'll give you an idea of what you're going to say when, and keep it to what is, relatively succinct answer.
Yeah. I usually do bullet points underneath each one. So I hit the points that I want to do. So when you download this, what would be the best way to use this? And then what do you put inside of that media kit? You mentioned the bio, current headshots. What else do they need? Any reels or anything?
Not necessarily for podcasts. If you're trying to get on television, then definitely you need some evidence that you're television ready. But for podcasts, and if you have your own podcast, that's a nice thing to include.
Yes.
But and I would encourage you to put your best podcasts on your website. So if anybody really wants to go and look around, they can. But obviously, the most important thing is having a compelling website, and you make sure that your social media looks good too, because that's the first place they're going to go. They're going to investigate your social media. They're going to look at your website. They want to know that you're real. So make sure that these are all up to speed.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you guys another little secret about the platform building. That host is going to look. So you need to get your platform building done. How many followers do you have? Because they're also looking at, what are you going to bring to my show? Could I get some potential listeners out of this as well? So that is always something to look at. So tell me, I'm a guest frequently, and I also have guests on frequently. How do you feel about asking the host, could I run this through Opus Clips, or could I do sound bites for promotion? Because sometimes hosts don't want you to do it because it's their intellectual property, but I've never gotten a no.
I think that's great. Most people are going to say anything you can do to promote this interview is wonderful. So ask away. I think that's a great question to ask if you're willing to do that. A lot of authors just, are not tech savvy and don't have this capability. But with AI today, it's so much easier, and it's, a growing trend.
It is, but there's that importance of building that platform. So hopefully by the time they get to you, they have the tech down, because it is important to have that audience. Just like I said, somebody's going to go over and see, I have 17,000 followers on LinkedIn, and sort of, she might be a good guest. She might bring some people to the show. So tell us more about the 20 questions. Should they be directly pertinent to your book? How should you craft those? There's a business book. What do you think?
Well, the first question is always about your story. How the heck did you get here? What brought you to this place? And then the next one might be, well, why did you write the book? And then from there, then you start getting into the overarching messages of the book. What is it you're trying to convey? What is it, the biggest, most important teaching principle of where, of this, and how you came to this? And then you can start breaking it down. You can break it down by chronology, or as logical steps, or where the next part of the story, or where the next subject matter that is, once you've established this, then what's the next thing that you need to know? And so basically the middle core of this really is all about the critical subject matter that you're trying to bring to and use to attract people to you. Then you can get into a little bit more about, free gifts, or services that you provide, or clients that you've served and the results that they've gotten, or the kinds of work that you do specifically that help people. So really it's layering it. And, but don't get into the sales part of it too early. Uh,
Right. If
just
at all, if you have to at all, that might be a relationship building conversation.
but most importantly, and then but keep in mind, what is the information that's going to help this person? And you might have more than one different kind of an audience that you're speaking to too. You might want to address a woman's audience, and you might want a mind, body, spirit audience, and then you might want to address so you might have different questions in there, even, because the host may encompass a lot of this, but you might have questions that, that really are geared toward a specific part of that audience. But you want to give a host questions that are going to bring out the part that's going to make you appear as if you're an authority, that you have experience in this area. Maybe your personal journey points to why you should be the teacher for these people. Obviously, if God forbid you've been through sexual abuse and you're talking to an audience of people who have been sexually abused, that's really pertinent. And, you can talk, and don't be afraid to be real. Don't be afraid to be authentic, because that's going to draw people to you. Don't hold back. And let me just point out, if the author starts into areas that you're uncomfortable with, you don't have to answer the question. You can actually respond with a different answer, redirecting into another subject matter, another direction of the audience and if they ask you something you don't know, you can simply say, I need to get back to you on that.
Or maybe that's not my area of expertise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. That is very interesting, putting those together. Should you tie back the relevance to what's going on in today's world in the interview, or is that something you would just do in the pitch to allow them to see? Because I'm thinking about, I think it's Dr. Casey Means, that Good Energy book. If that book had come out this time last year, it might not be as pertinent as it is today, with RFK Jr. coming out and talking about, vaccinations and food and all of that. So do you feel like the host should know that, or should you tie it back in some way?
No, see, if you're going to pitch a subject matter, it needs to be in your questions.
Okay.
So if you are doing something topical, it needs to be among the earliest questions.
Good to know. So how do we get this 20 questions download from you and find out more about how you work with authors? Because I know you have 3 different areas where you can work with them, depending on how much work they want to do in the process as well.
So it's not the 20 questions I'm going to give them. I'm going to give them something called 20 factors that are going to tip their scale to get them on a podcast.
All right.
These are going to tell you how to make yourself relevant so that a podcast host wants to have you on their show, that they're salivating to have you on their show. So, and you can get it by going to consciousmediarelations.com/podcast. And I'll repeat that, consciousmediarelations.com/podcast. Now, what we do in our podcast radio tours is I read your book, write a really compelling pitch letter, then and the media kit, and then we send it to 9,000 shows and podcasts at the same time, with a minimum guarantee of 30 interview invitations. And we've been doing this for 15 years. We have 400 people we've done this for, including people like Don Miguel Ruiz, Ariel Ford, James Twyman, Joe Vitale, Kristen Jan Epwood, Maureen St. Germain, Noah St. John, and Marie Diamond, just to name a few, but a lot of first-time authors as well. And if your book improves one's life, one's business, and the planet, we serve you. If you want to have something that's, really hardcore business, how to sell more real estate, no, we're not the people.
Probably not your niche.
Yeah, and we're not politics either. And it's all nonfiction. So, but if you want to help people find a new path, that's us. Now, what we do is we have 3 different versions of this. One is the done for you, where we will do everything. All you do is tell us when you're available and show up for the interview. Then we have another one that is done with you. And so that one, what happens is we build a very big chart on Excel, on Google Docs, and we log in all the invitations for you. And then we introduce you to the host. You, by an email, you then book your interview yourself, put it in chronological order in this document, and then you are responsible for sending the reminder to the host a few days before and making sure that you guys are connected again just before the interview. And then the last one is one. And now, and by the way, those are the two that have the guarantee of 30. Now, there's another way that if you're really looking for a budget program where we'll create a special email for you that'll go to your personalized email, and we will send the pitch from you, not from us. And then the emails go directly to you, not to us. And then you're going to be playing catch and then sorting them out and logging them in your own way and booking them on your own. So all of those are different means to do this. And, we find that most people pick the first two because it takes the burden off of them to a great degree. And we do have the largest lists in the industry in specialties. And by the way, but besides of our big core list, which is personal growth, spirituality, health and wellness, women's empowerment, anything that is in the self-improvement, we have specialty lists. So if you want business or women's business or pets or energy healing or food or relationships or any of those kinds of things, we have specialty lists that we pull in and drop them into the mix when we do the distribution. And essentially, we've been doing it for a very long time. There are 90 testimonials on our website that I encourage people to go look at consciousmediarelations.com and you will see them. And the best way to get connected is to set up a meeting with me, and you can do that on that page. Or you can reach me at Jackie@consciousmediarelations.com. And let's look and see if your book's a good fit for us and which program actually works for you. And then we can get started.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing this today. You guys, this is the wave of the future. I would not even solicit the mainstream media these days. This is where people are going to get to know you. And if you want to be hired, there might be 10 people who do what you do. But if you get on there and you build an online relationship through an interview, people are going to say, like, she's talking to me, and come in and check out your book and hire you. And all of that is just an amazing. I love the new media and where it's going.
Well, and the simple answer, Juliet, is if you don't do it either yourself or outsource it, your book is going to languish.
Yeah.
And it won't get the message out there. You have to be proactive. And you don't have to do it all yourself. We've clearly got ways to help you. But all I can say is don't hide your light under a bushel, because you will live to regret it.
Yes, you will. All right, Jackie, thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here, Juliet.